New Marvel Snap season, new Marvel Snap patch, new Marvel Snap best decks video. For those that haven't seen one of these from me before, it's going to be broken down into 3 sections. I'm going to talk about the most popular decks in Marvel Snap right now. I'm going to talk about the best performing decks, the ones that are winning the most cubes on average in Marvel Snap. And then I'm going to close out with some of my pocket picks that I think are underappreciated decks that are still excellent in this developing format. As always, the statistics-driven decks for most popular and highest cube rates are going to be coming from Untapped.gg metrics. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, shall we? As is always the case when a season pass card release, it is incredibly popular on the Marvel Snap ladder as people scramble to figure out what is good with it. A whopping upwards of 20% of games logged on the Untapped.gg tracker involved some kind of Dakin. This Dakin discard variation, as well as this Dakin strong guy variation, are the 2 most individually popular deck lists as early frontrunners. Personally, I expect both of these particular deck lists to become less popular as the season go on. My experience playing with and against them is that the raw power level of what they're doing leaves a little bit to be desired against some of the stronger decks in the format. And once the novelty wears off, I think people are going to move on to other things. Overall, my early impressions of Dakin is that it's a pretty reasonable card as far as 3 energy plays go that can get up to 8 points worth of stats when that shard gets destroyed or discarded. But it's really more impressive in the honest decks that are just playing it as a cheap, high-statted card, rather than decks like this that are trying to do ultimately kind of cute things to leverage it more than just that. The most popular deck after the Dakin variations is the most popular deck from the previous season, and that's Thanos Control. While Thanos Control is down a lockout card with Spider-Man getting a full redesign, it's still choosing to play this card. I think this deck is still as potent as ever. I think part of the reason why we still see Spider-Man in here is people just didn't update deck lists from the previous seasons, but I also wouldn't be super surprised if after people optimize a little bit, they continue to play this card. 5 points of stats for 3 energy is pretty above rate for Marvel Snap in general, and Spider-Man's effect is not only disruptive, but it gives you random utility into hard to reach locations like Sanctum Sanctorum or Death's Domain that can provide a lot of value in a deck. For people that aren't familiar with this deck, it essentially looks to slam down Professor X as early as turn 4 on the back of extra energy from things like Psylocke or Thanos' Time Stone, and then should you gamble a little bit and not be winning the path you put Professor X into, cards like Blue Marvel, Jeff, and Claw let you get extra points in there after the fact, while you slam down something large like a Devil Dinosaur, an Iron Lad, or a Thanos in a second path to win that one as well. The third most popular archetype behind Dakin decks and Thanos Control is Sarah Surfer. Notably, there used to be some discussion as whether or not you wanted to play Spider-Man or Sarah in the 5-drop slot of this deck. Now you just play both, with Spider-Man being a disruptive 3 energy play. This deck notably has a lot of disruptive movement-based 3 energy plays now, with Spider-Man joining Polaris and Juggernaut as frequent picks in this archetype. I think the shout out of Shadow King as a tech card right now is definitely noteworthy. This is able to reset things like Dakin or Collectors or Angela or Kitty Pryde. A lot of things in the metagame that this card is excellent into. Goose is also a pretty quality disruptive card into a lot of the bigger things that Thanos Control and various MODOK decks are looking to bring to the board right now. Moving along from most popular deck lists to ones that have the highest average cube gains, meaning the best performing decks on the Marvel Snap ladder right now, we kick off with Stature Hawk, a tried and true deck list that's just playing high quality cards and powerful tech cards to great effect. The noteworthy thing about the latest iterations of this archetype is that they've mostly moved away from the Miles Morales movement sub package in order to play other good 4s and tech cards. Most notably, Captain Marvel got a pretty big upgrade, being reduced to just a 4 energy play that now works with your Zabu, and she is a staple in most of the best performing stature lists. We're also leveraging Killmonger as well as Spider-Ham for additional disruptive elements. Shang-Chi and Enchantress round out the disruptive core, and then Stature, Black Bolt, and Darkhawk provide us with consistently high statted cards to actually win games in the paths that we slam them down in. High Evolutionary Lockjaw is nerfed but not forgotten, not a high play rate, but putting up consistently high cube rates in the game right now. Noteworthy standouts in the most successful builds is that Dracula is a mainstay as another way to discard our large things with high power points. Most notably, the bonus that High Evolutionary provides to Hulk is reflected in your hand, so Dracula can discard that to gain that bonus. Most of these deck lists are also playing Spider-Ham as an additional cheap card to play out into the Lockjaw path to get a disruptive effect, while also having the chance to flip out a large statted thing in that Lockjaw lane. The final deck list I'm showcasing in the top cube gains category has me feeling a little bit of a proud parent moment. I've been putting variations of this Angela Kraven Little Movers deck in my personal pick section for the last couple of best decks video, and with the addition of Spider-Man to the game being another amazing card that enables both Angela and Kraven, this deck has picked up in both popularity and power level, putting strong performances up in the hands of many people on the ladder right now. It's worth noting when talking about this archetype that these 12 cards on the screen are my preferred variation of the deck list, but other creators and players have popularized a few different takes on it as well, including this Legion America Chavez variation. That's definitely the most popular on the ladder at the moment. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Legion's inclusion in this deck because I don't think he solves any of the problems that it has. Legion's primary function is to mitigate location variance, and playing a plethora of cards that move around the board at will already serves to mitigate variance from a number of locations in Marvel Snap. I'm also not a fan of Chavez in this deck list because while she does make the early game more consistent, a lot of her early game pieces are interchangeable and redundant. I don't think we need that consistency boost, especially in a world where Kitty Pryde is no longer getting +2 when she bounces to our hand. This deck list also has a number of cards that you're pretty happy to draw in the last turn of the game, most notably Shang-Chi, Captain Marvel, or Enchantress, which has been eschewed from this deck list for Chavez, are often excellent draws on that final turn of the game to win you in tight spots. As far as Hulkbuster goes, this card is kinda cute with Kitty Pryde and Angela and Captain Marvel, but overall I think it's worse than the utility that a 3 energy card like Polaris or another tech card like Enchantress can provide. Moving along to my personal picks for decks that I think are excellent right now and flying a little bit under the radar. We're starting off here with a Magneto control variation that's leveraging a couple of cards that were changed in our most recent over-the-air update. Specifically, getting to curve Captain Marvel into Vision into Magneto lets you kind of dictate where all the important cards on the board end up in those final moments of the game, and generally speaking allows you to engineer a board state that's very profitable for you. The bottom end of this deck is just pretty good on rate cards, with Luke Cage providing good utility, Lizard providing excellent stats, Iceman being disruptive, and Zabu letting us slam down powerful 4 energy cards like Captain Marvel and Jessica Jones ahead of curve. We also round the deck list out with a couple of tech cards here in Shang-Chi and Enchantress, who are frequently able to get us out of sticky situations when Magneto's stat line and disruption isn't quite enough to get the job done. My next pocket pick is a Little Collections deck that I've been advocating for a little while as well. This deck has some parallels to the Little Movers deck in that we have Angela in addition to another efficient 2 energy card here in Collector that can scale up very large in size for a minimal investment at the start of the game. We're also top ending some tech cards here in Shang-Chi and Enchantress to be disruptive to what our opponent is bringing to the table. I would say the largest strength that this deck list has over others in this video is that the random card generation from Agent Coulson and Nick Fury serves to not only work well with the Collector as well as Quinjet for cost reductions, but they really keep your opponents on their toes, not letting them know what output range your deck has and what they need to be playing around, which can get you big cube wins when you surprise them with something out of left field. It is worth shouting out here that I'm showing Mirage in this deck list, but she's by no means required. If you're missing this card from a previous Spotlight cache, you can easily slot in something such as Cable or Agent 13 and have this deck run at a similar efficiency level. Like to close out today's videos and my pocket picks with the deck list that got me the most Infinity Avatar borders last season inside of Conquest. I think is also excellent on the ladder at the start of the season, and that is this High Evolutionary Moon Girl Hulk double up deck. What this deck is looking to do is use Moon Girl to create multiple copies of our big card to the top end of our curve, either She-Hulk or a High Evolutionary powered up regular Hulk, to play them out over those final turns of the game. With Quinjet, we could play a copied regular Hulk on turn 5 and 6, or on the back of Magic, turn 6 and 7 are also possible. One of the things this deck list really has going for it is that it's very difficult to interact with. Not only can we manipulate priority by just passing the turn to soak energy into Sunspot before we slam She-Hulk down, but the best cards to interact with us, something like Shang-Chi, get shut down by Armor as well as Cosmo here, which also double as proactive disruptive elements against the various destroy and discard decks running around in the format. I would love to know what deck lists you've been rocking at the start of this Marvel Snap season. As always, if you enjoyed my recommendations, snap that button, and hopefully we'll see you back again tomorrow for another excellent Marvel Snap video here on YouTube.